Right now, millions of people are going to theaters to watch the new Michael Jackson movie titled Michael, a high-budget cinematic portrayal of the life and legacy of one of the most influential artists the world has ever known.
Dude, that movie was enough to make a grown man cry, I swear.
Whatever you think you may know about Michael, just watch the movie and just debunk everything you know.
To someone unfamiliar with the depth of Michael Jackson's story, it all seems like a celebration of his life and legacy. But those who are familiar are probably asking a very dark, uncomfortable question. Why is the exact same industry that spent the last 20 years systematically destroying this man suddenly celebrating him again?
Michael Jackson was right when he said that these people are devilish, but there are so many of us in the world who now recognize the truth of what happened to you.
Michael Jackson was never just a pop star. He was, and still is, an exploitation machine. Everyone in his orbit, including family, so-called friends, the music industry, and even the movie industry, wanted and still want only one thing from Michael, and that is to capitalize on his greatness and massive success, even if it is at the expense of Michael himself. When it benefits them, they embrace him, and when it benefits them, they destroy him.
I could never harm a child or anyone. It's not in my heart. It's not who I am.
That's all bullshit, Vlad. I'm not gonna let you start there. Vlad, Mike's legacy gotta be protected, bro. He was a true soul.
If you track his life, you will see a chilling, repetitive cycle. It works like this. First, they embraced and capitalized on him.
Now I'm very happy to present the Grammy Legend Award for 1993 to my big brother, Michael Jackson.
Second, he rebelled.
He owned half of Sony. Right. Yeah, he did. You know how big Sony is, bro?
Every time Beyonce and Jay-Z make a song, Michael was getting a check.
Third, they weaponized the media to destroy his reputation and bled his bank accounts dry.
They turned my room upside down, went through all my books, all my videotapes, all my private things, and they found nothing that could say Michael Jackson did.
Fourth, they killed him, and now they're extracting whatever is left of his legacy. His estate and the companies are squeezing out whatever is left and monetizing his likeness, the same likeness they repeatedly tried to destroy because he got too powerful and would not play by their rules.
I know people who knew Mike like that. I don't believe none of that shit. I think it's the fact that Michael had power, Michael owned Sony, he owned a lot of shit, and they wanted to get rid of his ass, and they wanted to ruin his fucking reputation.
This is the autopsy of the greatest extortion loop we've ever seen in the history of entertainment. Welcome to Redline Theory. To understand why the industry went to war with Michael Jackson, you have to understand how much money was actually at stake. In the 1980s, Michael wasn't just rich, he was an entire economy. He moved over 500 million records.
Michael Jackson is the biggest selling artist of all time. And Thriller remains the largest selling album all over the world.
To put his creator force into perspective, in the single year following his death, his estate generated over $1 billion. That is roughly the entire gross domestic product of a small country. In the beginning, this staggering wealth served his record label perfectly. Jackson was the definitive golden goose. He single-handedly revived a collapsing music market, proving that record labels could generate monopolistic wealth by putting all their chips on one megastar.
I don't think people understand how big Michael Jackson was. I don't think they understand it because they weren't alive when it was happening.
He was huge from the time he was like 5 years old until the day he died.
As long as Michael stayed on the stage, sang his songs, and smiled for the cameras, the relationship was flawless. But then, Michael woke up to the business.
Because Mike was a very smart businessman.
Right, he owned like half of Sony ATV?
Yeah, he was very, very smart. He had more power than a black man should have in the business, put it that way.
In the mid-1970s, Paul McCartney pulled a young Michael aside and taught him the ultimate industry secret: music publishing. McCartney explained his deep regret over losing the ownership of his own Beatles catalog. Because McCartney had been tricked by early contracts, he didn't own his own art. He taught Michael that owning the publishing rights, which means getting paid every time a song is played anywhere on earth, was the only real way to protect your wealth.
He was talking to me and asking my business advice, and one of the things I said to him was, think about getting into music publishing, And then he looked at me kind of, I thought he was joking. He said, I'm going to get yours.
Oh, yeah.
So, I kind of thought, oh, you.
Michael absorbed this lesson brilliantly, and in 1985, he found out that the ATV music catalog, now Sony Music Publishing, was up for sale. This massive vault contained thousands of songs, including the majority of the Beatles' hits. While McCartney was trying to put a bid together, Michael swooped in with his massive liquid cash and bought the entire catalog for $47.5 million. This was the turning point.
You were the guy who said to Michael Jackson, you should get into publishing.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
They love the irony.
And he bought all your songs.
Yeah.
And you said to him, listen, I'll give you fair market value. Let me buy my songs. I want to own them. And he won't do it.
The 20-year-olds that are listening to this right now don't understand how big the Beatles were.
If you think Taylor Swift is large, the Beatles was like out of this world.
Yes. This was the moment the evil eyes locked onto him, and therefore the industry initiated the destroy phase. The first phase of his destruction hit in 1993, and when you actually look at the forensic facts of the first allegations against him, you don't find a pursuit of justice. You find a coordinated, multi-million-dollar extortion plot. It started with a Los Angeles dentist named Evan Chandler. After Michael befriended Evan's 13-year-old son, Evan's behavior became highly erratic. He aggressively tried to embed himself into Michael's finances, even suggesting that Michael paid to build a new wing on his house so they could live together. But when Michael pushed back and stopped taking his calls, all hell broke loose. Evan decided to burn Michael to the ground by alleging that Michael had abused his son. But here's the catch: Evan's own family didn't believe him.
Evan Chandler did, in fact, drug his child, and then to ask him, did Michael Jackson molest you, to which your drugged and sedated son says yes. That is the actual story about how this allegation came about.
Evan had separated from the mother of his child prior, and she and the stepfather actually recorded phone conversations with Evan because they suspected Evan was fabricating the entire thing for a payout.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen. Beyond his worst nightmares. Sell one more record. If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want, and they will be destroyed forever. That's a fact, Dave. That's what's going to happen. Does that help? Your career will be over. Does that help Jordan? Michael's career will be over. And does that help Jordan? It's irrelevant to me.
Evan's legal team demanded a $20 million payout. Even though the LAPD knew this was about money, clearly stating that Evan was nearly $70,000 in debt for child support. Yet the district attorney refused to press extortion charges against Evan, claiming that because Michael was negotiating, it wasn't extortion. Faced with a canceled world tour, a canceled Pepsi endorsement, and a collapsing empire, Michael's corporate advisors told him to settle. A big mistake he would eventually live to regret for the rest of his life.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. As I have maintained from the very beginning, I am hoping for a speedy end to this horrifying experience to which I have been subjected.
In civil disputes involving billionaires, paying a settlement to stop a PR disaster is standard business and not an admission of guilt. Sometimes it's just better to take the financial cost up front in order to kill the story in the press and limit the long-term reputational damage. And sure enough, the moment the $20 million check cleared, the Chandler family stopped cooperating with police and the criminal investigation was entirely dropped. But if you want proof of how dark this really was, look at what happened to the Chandler family next. If Evan Chandler was a hero protecting his son, why did his son Jordan file for legal emancipation from his parents shortly after getting the money?
In case you're not aware of what emancipation is, it's essentially you go to the court and you can say a variety of things. You show them that you have some way to make money, and you say, I do not want to be the child of either of these parents. Literally emancipate me before I turn 18. Jordan Chandler did this. When he turned 16, he filed a restraining order against his dad because his dad tried to beat him with a weight. What's really going on?
Evan, the man who orchestrated the 1993 allegations, ultimately took his own life in 2009.
Jersey City officials will confirm police are treating the case as a suicide. Telling Fix News the victim suffered a self-inflicted gunshot to the head.
And then there was the media betrayal. At the height of the 1993 scandal, Michael's own sister, LaToya, went on television and called him a predator.
Michael is my brother. I love him a great deal, but I cannot and I will not be a silent collaborator of his crimes against small, innocent children.
The media ate it up, but what they buried was the terrifying truth behind that interview. LaToya was married to an abusive man with a criminal record who went by the name Clifford William Johnson. He literally forced LaToya to lie about Michael on TV under the threat of physical violence, purely because he wanted to sell the fabricated story to tabloids for $500,000.
Gordon gave me this piece of paper and he says, read this. He goes, you better say this, you say this.
Jack Gordon forced you to say that your brother was a pedophile. Did you think he was?
No, I did not. The courts have proven that too as well.
The 1993 scandal was a calculated extortion, and it worked. It successfully damaged the most valuable brand on earth. But then, something fascinating happened. After the 1994 settlement, a deep silence fell over the media. Between 1994 and 2002, there were 0 allegations. For 8 years, Michael was allowed back into the embrace phase. He toured, he released music, and he made the industry billions. But the silence shattered in 2002, not because of a new victim. It shattered because Michael openly rebelled against the system. By the early 2000s, Michael was locked in a bitter war with Sony Music. He realized that Sony had trapped him in unfavorable contracts and was trying to force him to sell his 50% stake in his massive publishing catalog.
The record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
Sony knew that if they could bury him in debt, Michael would be forced to sell his assets at a basement price just to survive. Michael saw the trap and he fought back. In July 2002, he shifted from an obedient pop star to a hostile corporate adversary. Michael had declared war. He told the public that the record companies steal from their artists, especially the black artists. And if you've been following my channel, you'd know that is a sentiment I have been sharing on here as well.
Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of completely. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice.
He explicitly targeted Sony Music chairman Tommy Mottola, calling him a devil and a racist.
Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very devilish.
And then he delivered the ultimate fatal blow. Michael looked at the cameras and said, "I've generated several $1 billion for Sony." They never thought this performer would outthink them.
I've generated several $1 billion for Sony. Several billion. And they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer, myself, would outthink them. So I'm leaving Sony a free agent, owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know.
He did the one thing you are never allowed to do in the music industry. He beat the house. And the timing of what happened next is undeniable. For 8 years, there had been absolute peace. But the very next year after he declared war on the executives, all hell broke loose again. In 2003, a heavily edited documentary triggered a massive media firestorm. A new family, the Arvizos, leveled allegations against Michael, and the exact same prosecutor who failed in 1993 launched a massive raid on Neverland Ranch.
They were supposed to go in and just check fingerprints and do the whole thing that they do when they take somebody in. They manhandled me very roughly. My room is a complete wreck. My workers told me, they said, Michael, don't go in your room. They were crying on the phone, my employees. They said, if you saw your room, you would cry. They said, you can't even get up the stairs. The room is totally trashed. And they had 80 policemen in this room, 80 policemen in one bedroom. That's really overdoing it.
The media immediately weaponized the story. They launched a psychological warfare campaign stamping Wacko Jacko on every tabloid in the world. Their goal was simple: destroy his credibility, isolate him from his fans, and crush his ability to make money.
Yeah, Wacko Jacko. It's not nice. I'm not a wacko. I'm not a jacko. I'm Jackson. I have a heart and I have feelings. I feel that when you do that to me. It's not nice.
And just like in 1993, the case was built on sand. The Arvizo family had a deeply suspicious history of trying to extort money. The mother, Janet, had previously claimed security guards molested her family after her son was caught shoplifting at JCPenney. A psychiatrist literally noted in her medical file that she was delusional and likely fabricated the assault. When the 2005 criminal trial began, the prosecution fell apart. Timelines were debunked, witnesses admitted to lying. Gavin Arvizo even admitted on the stand that he told his teacher Michael never did anything to him. After 14 weeks, a jury fully acquitted Michael Jackson on all 10 criminal counts. But here's the sickening reality of the destroy and capitalize cycle. The truth didn't matter. The trial was the punishment. The media had already executed him in the court of public opinion. He was acquitted, but his brand was shattered, his health was failing, and the massive legal fees pushed him exactly where the industry wanted him, drowning in $500 million of debt.
He was in the red for, the latter part of his career, meaning that he owed money because he spent so much money.
IRS?
To everyone, to everything, because he would borrow money because he spent a lot of money.
By 2009, Michael was trapped. Hedge funds were threatening to foreclose on his home. To protect his publishing catalog and avoid total bankruptcy, he had to generate cash immediately. Out of pure desperation, he agreed to a comeback tour with AEG Live.
These will be my final show performances in London. This will be it. This is it. And when I say this is it, it really means this is it.
Just so exciting, so privileged that I'm going to be able to see him live once in my lifetime now. So it's a big honor.
He's like a living legend, so for him to come back out, I think it's a big deal. A lot of people thought like they'd never get to see him again. To see him again, like for people like me who dreamed of seeing him as a kid, this is amazing. It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity,
It started as 10 shows, but the corporate machine saw the dollar signs and pushed it to 50 sold-out arena concerts. They were going to squeeze the golden goose one last time. Behind the scenes, the situation was terrifying. Michael's health was failing, but internal corporate emails revealed that the executives didn't care about the man. They cared about the $85 million in ticket sales. To keep Michael standing, they brought in an unlicensed cardiologist named Dr. Conrad Murray for $150,000 a month.
You shut down your practice basically to go and work exclusively for him. Did you do that for the money? Because you were in debt? Were you starstruck? Were you seduced by fame?
I was so sympathetic to Michael because of the things I've learned about Michael, the things that he shared with me.
Operating entirely outside the law, Murray started pumping Michael full of propofol, a heavy surgical anesthetic, just to force him to sleep.
Call it ideal or non-ideal, Michael Jackson is not the guy you can just say, stop it.
But it's not a treatment for insomnia. No matter what he said to you, no matter how he begged, no matter how hard it is that he is Michael Jackson asking you.
The most heartbreaking evidence of this exploitation is a secret audio recording Murray took of Michael just weeks before his death. Despite having recorded proof that Michael was incapacitated, Murray kept pumping him with drugs.
He is the greatest entertainer in the world. I'm taking that money. I'm really children's. The biggest in the world. My reaction to the hospital.
On June 25th, 2009, Michael Jackson died.
In breaking news, there are unconfirmed reports that Michael Jackson has died in a Los Angeles hospital.
The world has lost a major talent, right up there, in Jerry Greenberg's words, with Elvis Presley himself.
The media instantly plastered the word overdose everywhere, blaming the erratic pop star for taking his own life.
If Michael Jackson was really a drug addict, and this is his drug of choice, propofol, and he was asking for it, and the doctor walks out of the room, to me it's plausible he could have administered an additional dose to himself.
But they buried the truth. The coroner eventually ruled it a homicide, and Dr. Murray was convicted of manslaughter, but he was given a sweetheart deal, serving less than 2 years behind bars. The doctor went free, but the industry finally got what it wanted. Jackson's massive debt was triggered, his estate was restructured, and the corporate executives regained total control of his empire. Since his death, his estate has generated over $3.3 billion. The rebellion was over. The corporation won. And from that moment on, they just manipulated Michael's essence to match whatever the culture was buying. In 2019, during the peak of the Me Too movement, the industry backed the Leaving Neverland documentary. They capitalized on the outrage era, tearing his legacy down to win an Emmy and boost his streaming numbers through pure controversy.
None of us in this room were there at the time that these allegations were made. So how can you say what they're saying are lies?
No, we weren't there, and nobody was there, but the facts are a public record. I mean, would he testify under oath, all the different things that he said? Those are the facts.
I don't want to watch that Michael Jackson thing. First of all, it's weird because he's not alive. He's not alive to defend himself, so it's weird. It's also stories, and you know,
2 of the fathers have committed suicide since this happened.
Jesus Christ.
Wait, but we don't have any hard evidence that he was molesting kids, right?
And now, in 2026, the culture wants nostalgia, so they released a $150 million blockbuster to build him back up. But if you want to know how cynical this all is, look at the script for the new movie. They intentionally left out a lot about Michael's life producing the movie, almost like a musical. They completely ignored the 1993 extortion and his tragic death.
If this were a musical, then I don't have no beef. But somebody that didn't know much about Michael Jackson going to this movie, you don't know nothing about Michael Jackson still. Michael Jackson is creme de la creme. And this movie didn't present him that way. It didn't tell a story.
Why? Because the Jackson estate signed a watertight legal contract during the 1994 settlement that permanently bans them from ever portraying Evan Chandler in a movie. The most powerful artist in history remains legally gagged from the grave by the man who orchestrated his destruction. And before you assume this movie is just a pure, unified family tribute, you have to look at the fracture behind the scenes. Yes, the Michael Jackson estate funded and produced this movie. But remember, the estate is now a corporate entity, and it is just as guilty of capitalizing on his legacy. When you look closely, the illusion of family unity shatters. Janet Jackson, one of the few people on earth who truly understood the gravity of his fame, was asked to be in the film. She point blank refused to participate.
Did you miss not having Janet in the movie?
I wish everybody was in the movie. So.
Did you try to convince her and say, let's do it?
Well, she was asked and she kindly declined, so you have to respect her wishes.
But the most damning indictment comes from Michael's own daughter, Paris Jackson. While the estate and her own brother Prince were cutting multi-million-dollar deals with Hollywood to produce the film, Paris went on social media and publicly denounced it. She stated she had 0% involvement.
The film panders to a very specific section of my dad's fandom that still lives in the fantasy. And they're gonna be happy with it. Like, the narrative is being controlled. And there's a lot of inaccuracy and there's a lot of just full-blown lies. And at the end of the day, like, that doesn't really fly with me. I don't really like dishonesty. I spoke up. I wasn't heard. I fucked off. That's it. Y'all are gonna like the fucking movie. So just go watch it, go enjoy it, do whatever, leave me out of it.
The estate is acting exactly like the record labels did in the 80s. They are prioritizing the blockbuster revenue over the raw, uncomfortable truth. So this is not a video telling you to blindly boycott the movie, but this is a warning. You must develop an absolute impenetrable skepticism toward the narratives pushed by the media. The corporate machine does not care if an artist is a saint or a monster. They only care about how they can monetize the cycle. They built him up to print billions. When he got ownership, they funded his destruction. When he died, they absorbed his wealth, and after his death, they still have control of his likeness. They sold his sins for outrage, and now the estate is selling his essence for a check. This is Redline Theory. Subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching.